Right now, Trump is also suing by going to the Supreme Court. This video game literally shows the exact same thing happening right now with the elections happening in 2020. Okay, let's watch this together.
Following a disputed election and a tie vote, the U.S. Congress installs the most unpopular president in U.S. history as David Jefferson Adams becomes the 44th President of the United States. Shortly after the election, increased unrest, rioting, and a growing number of militias have given rise to ever-increasing domestic terrorism. In response, the President invokes the Homeland Security Act and declares martial law on the West Coast and other areas of the country. Though highly contested, a Supreme Court ruling sidesteps the electoral process, disqualifying popular presidential candidates from several states. Public outrage explodes when a sham election leads to incumbent David Adams accepting a second term in office. During the 57th Inauguration Day ceremonies, Washington, D.C. is struck by a low-yield nuclear weapon, killing David Adams and most of the U.S. Congress. The destruction of Washington, D.C. effectively breaks the chain of succession, sending the nation into chaos. In an emergency vote, the European Union deploys peacekeepers in the greater D.C. area to secure international interests. With separatist sentiment rising, California's governor declares home rule and secedes from the Union. Texas follows quickly and declares sovereignty, taking neighboring states with them and forming the Republic of Texas. Now, the once United States of America lie in ruin. The time for words has passed, and a second American Civil War now erupts as 7 factions wage war across the land. They battle one another to reclaim a nation, to restore peace, to rebuild this shattered union.
Following a disputed election and a tie vote, the U.S. Congress installs a president who is unpopular for the first time in U.S. history. In other words, someone who comes and the people did not have confidence in him. Someone who was not so popular. Make sure you are paying attention to the dates, because the dates will determine the beginning of this unpopular president's reign. Because in 2008 he is elected as the 44th president of America. Then you go to 2012, then that would mean that election year had arrived again. But if you pay close attention, basically civil unrest and everything is taking place, chaos is going all over the place, and the National Guard is brought on the scene.
Though highly contested, a Supreme Court ruling sidesteps the electoral process, disqualifying popular presidential candidates from several states. Public outrage explodes when a sham election leads to incumbent David Adams accepting a second term in office.
Sham elections. Sham elections. That means the numbers were played with. That means somebody tried to cheat their way into office so that they can be in charge of America, and they wanted to by any means boot this unpopular president. You see? But the Supreme Court had a major part to play.
Though highly contested, a Supreme Court ruling sidesteps the electoral process, disqualifying popular presidential candidates from several states. Public outrage explodes when a sham election leads to incumbent David Adams accepting a second term in office.
The Supreme Court had a major part to play in the election. The Supreme Court sidesteps they intervened and they sidestepped the electoral process. And this ends up helping this unpopular president to regain a second term in office through the help of the Supreme Court. Let me ask you a question. Who is the most unpopular president in US history that you can think of right now? Is it not President Donald Trump? Just to be fair, I think we can all agree that the dates are not quite accurate because they put the emphasis on the 44th president, which the reign would begin from the year 2008. So in other words, we're looking at the timeline that Obama took office. But Obama was a popular president, so that wouldn't fit the description of the timeline. Now, just because they use 44th president, the timeline, though it is an error, the events happening, it just so happened that the events happening are exactly happening as 2020 is unfolding. Because clearly we see that the Supreme Court intervenes. The Supreme Court intervenes, and by intervening with the electoral process, the Supreme Court ends up giving yielding basically the votes to be in favor of the unpopular president. Supreme Court gets involved, and then it helps the president to retain a second term. And when he accepts the second term, there's a huge public outcry. But before that, America was already falling. You see what I'm saying? America began to fall even during his first reign. Does that not sound like somebody that we all know? Does it not sound like President Trump? Since he was elected, America just went downhill and got worse. Now, it's not to say it's the president's fault, but what I'm saying is the way that the media narrates things. The media is here to control the people and to point the people in one direction or the other. The people trust the media, and that's their biggest mistake. Trusting the media was you trusting a medium of devils. You see what I'm saying? Think about it. It's called television broadcasting. When someone is casting a spell, it's called casting. They are casting a spell. Well, guess what? A spell is being cast upon the audience, upon the mass public, through the media or the medium by which devils can be able to come into your life. You don't believe that devils can come through technology? If you don't believe that, you better make sure that you open your eyes. And be very careful how you use this technology. Because guess what? Devils can come to your house through technology. You see, while the media is casting a spell upon you, Hollywood is casting a spell upon you as well when they make apocalyptic movies. Almost every single movie that Hollywood is releasing today deals with an end time scenario. It's not by pure coincidence, my friends. The devil, who is the president of Hollywood, who is the owner of Hollywood, the devil himself, he is telling you what his plans are. He is telling you these things. It's called predictive programming. When we look at the situation of the elections, somebody is playing with numbers. It just happened to be that this election, all of a sudden the votes have stopped. And this may take some time. It may take days or weeks. But one thing that we know for certain is that President Trump is going to seek justice by going to the Supreme Court. And isn't it ironic and interesting that President Trump filled that last vacant seat immediately with Judge Amy Barrett? Is it not interesting that Amy was sworn in just before Election Day? And all of a sudden now these people that Trump has put in, now he is going to them to plead his case that the votes in some states need to be recounted because they have reason to believe that there is fraudulent activity taking place and that the votes are not being counted in fairness. Isn't it interesting that that is the narrative that was also given in this video game? This video game is called Shattered Union. It's interesting that it's called Shattered Union because shattered means, or it comes from shatter, and to shatter means to break. Just like when you have a glass that shatters, it shatters into many different pieces. Rome was a great empire, but then Rome became divided into 10 different kingdoms. Rome became a shattered union. America was once called the United States of America. Union. What does union mean? Union, according to Google Dictionary, it says the action or fact of joining or being joined, especially in a political context. Or it could be, number 2, a club, society, or association formed by people with a common interest or purpose. That means they are united. They must have a common interest or a purpose in order to be classified as a union. Does this describe America today? No. Could we say America is a shattered union? Absolutely. Now, I'm not basing everything off of this video game and I'm telling you, okay, this video game is the light, it's this. No, I'm not saying that. You see, though they have the timestamps wrong, the events are fitting with that which we are seeing right now. Is it not very interesting that at the end of this clip, the last thing that is typed is a Bible verse, which is quoted, that a house divided against itself cannot stand. Those are the words of Jesus Christ. My friends, real talk now. Let's talk seriously. It doesn't matter how things are going to turn out between who is going to be president and who is not going to be president. One thing is certain. We are at the hours in which decision making must take place. And it is urgent. You must make your decision now. There are problems right now that the nations of the world are facing. And everybody can see that the superpower right now is being shaken. And the power known as America is being brought down to ruins. Even in like manner as the great empire of Rome came down and was brought down to ruins. You see, my friends, something is coming. What it is, we don't fully have we don't fully know the answer. The only way is for us to truly be in tune with the Word of God. He must unveil to us His oracles. Only the oracles of God can help us to understand exactly what is to come to pass.